You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
Hey folks, Brian Nichols here from The Brian Nichols Show. Are you tired of partisan politics? Do you want to hear the news without that media narrative? Do you want to be more well-rounded as a person? Or how about this? Do you want to get to know and learn from noted entrepreneurs, elected officials, C-level executives, economists, and more? Well, how about this? Look no further. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show. Again, I'm your host, Brian Nichols. Go ahead and learn more at briannicholsshow.com.
Okay, so hear me out. You like getting cash back for the normal stuff you buy throughout your week, right? Of course you do. Check out the Dosh app. That's D-O-S-H, Dosh. Dosh is available at the App Store and Google Play Store and securely connects to your credit or debit card. From there, every time you use those cards, Dosh searches for available offers. Once it finds one, Dosh automatically redeems the offer and converts it into cold, hard cash. Muchos dineros, brother? Then deposits that directly into your Dosh wallet. Click the link to download and join Dosh today and get $5 just for joining. This link is exclusively in the show notes of this episode. So, show notes, special link, Dosh, $5 cash. Start on the path to quick and easy cash back on the things you love today.
Hey everybody, check out the Break the Bell podcast, where we believe your voice is your most powerful weapon. For a weekly dose of our take on what's going on in the world, mixed with a side of history. Find us wherever podcasts are found or on social media handle at Break the Bell Pod. And most importantly, never stop talking.
Prepare yourself. You're on the run with Remso W. Martinez.
I say it every week, but I'll go ahead and say it again because it's worth repeating. Only those who are free are those with options, and that's what we're trying to give ourselves, more options. No one ever complained, no one ever cried, no one ever screamed about having too many choices in our lives, and that's what we're going to be covering more of today, really trying to establish those pillars in your life so that way you can, ultimately achieve the one thing that everyone wants, but no one really values until they see it going away, and it's time. How do you get back more of your time to live the lives that you truly want to live? Once again, thank you for tuning into On the Run. I'm your host, as always, Remso W. Martinez. Please, before we go ahead, this show only grows because of you, the listener. Engage with everything that we've got going on at the We Are Libertarians network. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Remso, at Hey Remso, Heyremso, and you can find me on Parler, my primary social media platform, by just heading over there and just searching for at Remso. I'm the only Remso there. If you ever see Remso 2 pop up, message them, call them a loser. I'm for cyberbullying when it protects the brand, so you all get that. We can go ahead and jump in. Something that we've been discussing more often recently because of listener feedback from all of you. Ultimately, you're driving the content here. It's understanding financial freedom, and during the time of the pandemic, this has been a topic that a lot of people jumped into pretty much face first. They just hit a brick wall because when the world changed, it changed and didn't give us many options. I'm lucky that, prior to the job I'm currently working on, I was at the Washington Times during the start of the pandemic last March, and seeing how it was affecting the publishing world, I was lucky I could work from home. I got a pay cut. That's ultimately why I needed to go ahead and look for other options. And luckily, I had been developing the skills to make myself more marketable. So when I saw an opportunity to jump into something I was really interested in, I was able to do so. And, finances are a big part of that. In the past couple weeks, we've been talking about, what is it to be a digital nomad? What is it to develop different streams of income? What are the pros and cons of MLMs? I mean, you've already listened to me give my whole spiel about why I'm not typically an MLM guy, and then we had John Odermatt, an affiliate over at Plexus, come on and discuss his experiences, the good and bad. So there are many ways to look at this, but there are just so many opportunities and avenues out there for you to educate yourself. That's why I'm glad we're bringing in our guest today to go ahead and talk about some new resources and opportunities for you to learn, so that way you can become financially independent in your own life. And I'm talking about the folks from Wealth Without Wall Street, Russ Morgan and Joey Mure. Russ started in the financial industry, and Joey started over in the mortgage business world. Gentlemen, what's going on? What is it you're trying to do now? How did it start? And I mean, how can people get involved?
Thanks for having us on, Remso. What are we trying to do? I mean, I think the problem that is trying to be solved out there is how do I get this freedom that I so desperately want? But the information on how to achieve it in a time frame that is less than age 60, right? You mentioned before that your goal and objective was to reach that destination by age 40, which is so different than what the world is teaching us. They're teaching us to work forever, and that does not seem like freedom to anyone. And so for us, Joey and I are trying to shine light, expose people to ways that you can actually reach that destination at a much earlier stage. It's not a number. It's actually a formula to follow, and we can talk about that during the show. But it's trying to educate people and empower people to take charge of their financial life and not hand the keys over to Wall Street.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I get a lot of real strange looks from folks when I tell them this because, one, I think just when no one likes to talk about money, especially their finances. And when I go and people ask me, what are my big long-term goals? And I mention, I want to be financially independent so that way I can work on the things I genuinely want to because I love doing them instead of just chasing a regular paycheck. That stability. I mean, one, they think it comes off a bit showboaty. Secondly, it's just it's going against what we're taught. It's going against what we learn in public school, which is just get a regular, comfortable 9-to-5 job. Your retirement plan should be entirely based off how much you can save. But my gosh, we never teach people about the Federal Reserve, which is inflating away our dollar and our buying power. And we live in an era where this idea is something that even our culture doesn't really embrace. It's just so radically different. And one of the things that you both cover is this idea of, building up your financial future, building your wealth based off something called the 5 pillars of wealth without Wall Street. Can you kind of go ahead and jump into that?
Yeah. So Remso, this is a great subject matter because I feel like if you're sitting there right now and you have this same objective, like, first of all, hats off to you that you have kind of bought into the idea that it is possible and you're saying, okay, I'm going to get there and here's my journey. So I'm grateful for a show like this that you're documenting that, as you go. But I think if we built the pillars in such a way that it would be almost like a roadmap, right? That it's a logical step-by-step process that can get you to the position to where you no longer have to say, I have to go to work. I actually give this story of my 4-year-old. She's now 5, but I remember distinctly taking her to school one morning. And in the back of the car, she's in her car seat and she's looking up at me and she says, Dad, why you have to go to work? Do you have to go to work today? That's what she's asking me. And I'm like, yes, honey, I've got to do that. I got to head to work today. And she says, well, why? And I said, well, because I've got this car I've got to pay for. I got our house to pay for. And she said, we already have a car. we already have a house. She's like, you dummy. Like, why are you having to do this? Like, don't you know we already have these things? And I'm like, yes, we are. But those things take money. I have to continue to pay for them. And she says, well, why? Like, just this constant little reminder in the back of my mind that until I have financial freedom, I have to go to work. And that's a question that if you're thinking about that right now, you need a step-by-step way to get there. And so to start off those pillars, I'm sorry if that was a little bit of a rant, but
no, I mean, it's perfect. And I'm glad you started with that because often, I mean, when people think about money, they just think, I want to have a lot of wealth so that way, I mean, we're very materialistic. When you look at the spending habits in the United States, for every dollar earned, your average American is spending $1.50. So we have hardly anything but a saving culture. But, when I mention, why I want to do what I'm doing to people when I meet others like me, it's never about the money. It's about what you mentioned just now. what is stopping me from spending more time with my daughter, spending more time with my family, actually getting back time to create these memories instead of just chasing a certain dollar amount? And I think that's the biggest thing. And the only reason why I personally care about money is it's the only thing that provides me with the option to buy back my own time.
So that is a perfect way to say it. And I'm grateful that we're in the company we are. Because at the end of the day, the only way that if someone has a better way, please let us know. Okay. But the only way we know is to create financial freedom is to have passive income that's coming in that's greater than our monthly expenses. Okay. And whenever I say that, I'm talking about monthly expenses are not just debts, because some people think the way to freedom is to pay off all your debts, pay off all your debts, pay off all your debts. But as you well know, there's other expenses that come into your daily life. We have insurances for health, for car, for house, whatever those things may be, taxes, food, clothing. I mean, all those things cost money, whether you have debt against them or not. So just paying off debt isn't the answer. We have to also simultaneously be building passive income streams. So once we know that, that's really kind of, if you want to start before even the 5 pillars of Wealth Without Wall Street, we're talking primarily about creating clarity. If I know that that's the scorecard, now I can start making decisions. And the very first thing I would say is cash flow. So Russ, you look like you want to say something on that.
No, I think that's right. I mean, the goal here, if you're trying to figure out what those 5 pillars are, is what Joey says. At first, you have to have clarity of what you want and not only where you are, but why do you want what it is that you're after. And so we start. There's these basic tenets that you'll hear in most sound financial strategies that exist out there. And the first one of our pillar is cash flow. And that could seem really lame and like boring. Like, why would you guys get on here and teach me about this? But it's because 99% of the people don't have any money left over at the end of the month, right? They wonder why they don't have the freedom.
There's a saying I often used to tell myself. It's like, I wish there was more money at the end of the month and more month at the end of the money.
Yeah. And there's, there's such simplicity in understanding that when we can beat that, we win by default. And I know Robert Kiyosaki calls savers losers. And when you were talking about the Fed earlier, I get it. Like, the dollars that we have today are losing value by the second, right? As they're continuing to print. I guess I don't even have to print it. That's 1980s version. They create digital currency by the second. So, but we know that if we don't save, quote unquote, don't spend every dollar that we make, we are going to be in a bad position. So one of the things that we focus on, one of our first pillars with people is they enter into kind of our sphere, is helping them understand where cash flow is flowing away from them and figuring out how could you get some of that coming back? Because therein lies the part that we don't focus on as individuals. We know how much money we have coming from our jobs or our businesses that we own, and we see the expense of money going out of our hands, but we never are really focused on how do I get more of that to flow back to me? And so we spend a good deal of time teaching people hacks, if you will, on how to improve cash flow in areas that is actually a lot of times contrary to what they're being taught in their typical financial education to that point.
What do you find is the most difficult thing when you try and educate people on this? Trying to get them to understand the concepts, or trying to break down already a lot of the stigmas they have in terms of how they see their finances?
Yeah, I would say, unlearning. There's a great video out there. I don't know if you've seen this before, Remso. It's called The Backwards Bicycle. Have you ever seen that YouTube video?
No, I haven't.
Oh, amazing video. You guys will love it. The group who does this is a Smarter Every Day. They're trying to teach people different concepts. But this video, 7 minutes, do yourself a favor, go watch YouTube and watch this video. But the whole purpose of it is that knowledge doesn't equal understanding. And he goes through about how he's trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. When he turns the handlebars to the left, it actually goes to the right. A welder friend of his made this little gadget on a bicycle that adjusted that one little feature. And you would think, well, if we learn how to ride a bicycle, I can just figure out, well, if I turn it to the left, it goes to the right. I can overcome that. And he goes around the world. It's like a guy, an engineer for NASA, and shows people around the world that they can't do it. I mean, when I mean you can't do it, like you can't even get one revolution on the spoke without falling off. And for us, when we're dealing with money, is that most people have a preconceived understanding of what they believe of how money works. And unfortunately, most of that has been passed down from someone else who believed that they knew how it worked, and it wasn't true. And even sometimes some of the people they're listening to are on radios and TVs, and they have, in my opinion, an understanding, but it may not be the one that matches yours. I mean, Joey and I and yourself are entrepreneur. We have this vision of how to create and be producers. Well, do you know only 7% of the populations are producers? The other 93% work for producers. Well, the financial information that is being shared in the world today, do you think it's for the 7%ers or for the 93%ers?
No, absolutely the consumer class. And I mean, I say that broadly. And I mean, one of the things that really made this something that made it from a concept to reality for me was, I think 2 months into the pandemic. I live in a very well-off area in Northern Virginia. It's a lot of defense contractors. It's a lot of folks that are making six figures, and you see their cars and their homes, and you think, well, they've got it down. They are wealthy. They're getting a six-figure income. But as soon as they as soon as they got laid off, as soon as they got salary reductions, as soon as the whole world changed, these are the people that were crying out for a $1,200 stimulus check. Because then when you really look at it, it's like, wait, there's the debt factor, there's the spending factor, but they've got nothing else coming for them. They were so dependent on that one stream of income coming from their regular wages that as soon as the world came collapsing down, I mean, they were crying out for that. The number of people I know who own mansions who had GoFundMes to help cover back taxes and things like that was insane.
Oh, wow.
It is. I mean, and that's the thing is that when you think that the financial information that is being taught across the board right now is for the 93% of the people, then I always say that most of the time when we are being interviewed and sharing information on our own podcast, people say, this is just uncommon. I go, exactly. That's what we want it to be uncommon, because the common advice is not getting people to the destination that they really want to achieve, right? When the common advice right now teaches you how to save money into an investment that you cannot touch until you're 59 and a half, that flies in the face of your goal of retiring at age 40, big time. So, I mean, it is very difficult to help people unlearn, right? The learning is easy. The unlearning is not so easy. And that's, I would say, to answer your question in a long format, that's the challenge that we face.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, what comes next? What's the next part in trying to, teach people more about this?
Well, so let me add a couple things to the cash flow component. So when we talk about cash that is going away from you and how to turn some of that back, I'm just going to, if it's okay, I'll just share a couple of little things that we figure out along the way. Okay. So when people engage with the process, they start to think differently about money, because now it's about cash flow. It's not about accumulating. And what Russ just mentioned there is qualified plans. Okay. 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, you fill in whatever acronym you want. None of them spell financial freedom before 59 and a half. Bottom line, it just requires, in order for you to access that money, you have to be at a position beyond where you want to be to get financial freedom. Well, wait a minute, Joey. Don't they give me a match? Like, isn't that good for me to have free money? Right? And Russ has a great quote. He said, you cannot pay me enough to put off my freedom. You can't do it. And once you get clear on what your goal is, now you can make decisions about those type of things and feel really confident you're making a good decision, because it's no longer about the rate of return within a vehicle if you can't touch it until you're in your 60s, right? It's more about, how do I get the cash flow that I need for freedom today? And so putting money in those things becomes an afterthought. Like, I'm no longer doing that. I'm going to put that money into my control. That's one option. The second thing we find out is people have debt concerns and debt questions. Like, what debts should I pay off? Which ones should I pay off first? Which ones maybe I don't need to worry about paying off because they don't play into my overall financial freedom goals.
So in like Dave Ramsey speak, we're talking like snowball or avalanche.
Exactly.
So setting your priorities for debt.
Well, and what we're saying about that is, even in some of those cases, there are debts that we would take completely off the table because they're no longer a priority. And what I mean by that, we actually have a tool within our community. There's a course. We call it paying down debt like a boss. And you have to say
I like it. I like it.
If you take the course, you have to say it like that. But within the course, there's a tool we call a priority payoff guide. And it literally will help you determine what debts do I need to pay off to get to financial freedom, which ones don't I need to pay off, and which ones do I need to pay off first? Like, how quickly should I prioritize this debt? And sometimes just having something that simple makes it like, wow, okay, this just became really clear. And now getting there faster becomes much more attainable. So things like how we pay off debt, we have some tax hacks within our course that will help you figure out, are there some things that I could do to save on taxes? And so those are the type of things. Besides we have an automated budget tool that helps you. If you've never lived by a budget, don't worry. None of us have. We've all struggled in that. So we had to come up with a course called the Automated Budget to make it simpler and it kind of take that brain space off the plate. But if you can do those things, now you're really crystal clear on your cash flow, and you can start taking the step into the next step.
Awesome. And so the first pillar is understanding cash flow. What's number two? Let's jump into that.
Number two is having an opportunity fund that allows you to take that cash flow and use it in places that you get access to. So for most people have heard about an emergency fund, but I don't think most people have focused on an opportunity fund, because most of the places in which they put money is not they're not opportunistic to being able to access it. And what Joey was saying a second ago is that what we find is the advice being given is to put money in 401ks and IRAs. And because of that, they can't touch the money. And so it's really not an opportunity fund. It's more like a safe, a vault, a prison. It's the place. It's the place where they hid Jimmy Hoffa. I don't know what it is. Nobody knows. It can't get to it, so it doesn't really matter. And so for us, we're always saying, no, you got to have an opportunity fund. You got to have a place that meets the criteria, that it's safe, it's liquid, the government can't tax the bejesus out of it. Somebody can't sue you and come access the money, but you can access the money. You can use it. And so we teach people, a concept called becoming your own banker, or the infinite banking concept, that shows people how to take, one of the oldest financial tools that exists, put a few little tweaks on it like the banks and the corporations do, and then use that as kind of a catapult toward truly taking opportunities and putting those into their hands, which kind of leads us into the third, fourth, and fifth pillar.
So when I hear the term infinite banker, I mean, just right there, that's something that I don't think anyone ever uses. Is it just the concept of making sure you have, ready access to cash? Is that primarily it? Talk to me like I'm stupid. I'm sorry.
Well, the first thing I would say is the guy who originated this entire concept was an Austrian economist who is heavily involved in libertarian kind of thought, part of the FEE. I mean, he's extremely all about freedom, if you will. And one of his main concerns was the banking system. He would say, if you have a loan at a banking institution, you are part of the problem because you are absolutely part of inflation and a part of the Fed continuing to take advantage of us. And so his idea was that you need to become your own banker. You need to take over the function of banking. And it sounds like a really, really big, crazy idea. But when you absolutely have access to your own funds in a place that is in free contracts with free people, and that's when we use super high cash value life insurance as the vehicle because it's the free contract aspect, and there's certain things within that contract that we can use to our benefit. We probably don't have time to go into all those nuances today, but we have a course actually within our community. We're happy to share that with your audience so they can learn more. But basically, using these contracts gives us access. It gives us tax-free growth. So we're in a sense, we're getting freedom from that monstrosity. The tax system in America is about to get, completely turned on its head in the next, decade. And we're consistently getting a return that will outrun inflation. And again, the bigger thing is, like you said, having access and control of your funds.
Right. And I just want to jump in real fast. I mean, you mentioned something. When it comes to our tax system, when it comes to the mechanism in which the government is going to try and take money from you, folks, please, if this is the first time you're listening, really, this is a nonpartisan discussion. Both Republicans and Democrats, when it comes to almost everything but monetary policy, when it comes to the monetary policy, it's never about, should we slow down or should we speed up? It's always about, okay, how do we access things so that way we're not angering certain groups of people? And, regardless of what administration we're dealing with, and I've said this before, I was poor during Obama and I was poor during Trump, and the only thing that could help me in those situations was my own actions. If you still think that everything is based off who's sitting in the White House, you've got a very two-dimensional view as to how this whole system operates.
No doubt. I think, was it Frederick Bastiat that said, if you look at the way our tax system is set up, it's really two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner.
I'm pretty sure that was it.
Yeah. I mean, so, I've been, obviously I've kind of went on. I know you were sharing one of your friends, or I don't know who it is, has a store, and it talks about, don't steal. The government doesn't want competition. And that's really, I mean, the book that we reference a lot is a book called Becoming Your Own Banker. And he has a section in there titled Willie Sutton's Law. And he says, wherever money is kind of housed, someone is going to try to come and steal it. And he said, the biggest thief in the world is the IRS. So for Joey and I, our goal is, how do we get money into accounts and places that the government can't access and use? So how do you break down this concept of becoming your own banker, infinite banking concept, the simplest way? And really, it's putting money in an accounts, as Joey said, using free contracts with free people, and doing this within our internal family. So my father-in-law is a great example of this. My wife's a dentist, and whenever she started her dental practice at the December of 2008, awesome time in the economy, if you remember.
Oh, Lord.
And we started this dental practice. We take out this huge $600,000 loan from Bank of America, and we start paying them monthly payments and interest. Well, just before that, I was helping her father at the time. I used to be back in the Wall Street days, so I feel like I can speak to what Wall Street's about, because I was an investment advisor. I had all the security license, and I had helped him sell Bank of America stock through the use of something called a stop loss. So when the bank stock started falling, it triggered it and sold it all. Well, so he was sitting in cash pretty much almost all of 2008, terrified of where he's going to put his money, pretty much where most people are getting ready to be as we see the next downturn.
Oh, definitely.
And he was trying to figure out, what is he going to do? And I read this book called Becoming Your Own Banker. And the whole book revolved around the fact that, as Joey said, we should possess all the tenets of a bank. And if you really understand how a bank makes money, all they do is they borrow money from us depositors, and then they turn around and lend it out to people who need loans, and they keep the spread. And so I was sitting there, I was thinking, well, wait a second. My father-in-law has cash sitting in a bank that came from Bank of America stock. My wife, his daughter, has a loan at Bank of America, and it was at like 7.85% interest, right? And of course, what do you think they're paying him on his savings at the bank?
Oh, pennies.
Yeah, nothing, right? I mean, it was nothing. And so I was like, well, wait a second. If we took this concept to heart, could we not put those two things together and cut out the bank in the middle? And he pays off the Bank of America loan. We pay him the 7.85%. Now our family as a whole is growing its wealth at a much higher rate. And so that one little tenet there just created this whole chain of events has happened not only in our personal lives, but how we look at money and with our clients is saying, wait a second, if we pull our capital in these dividend paying life insurance contracts the way we've been taught now to do it, not the way, I learned from my uncle, who worked at a bank many years ago, was just teaching me about life insurance. Nobody wants to have life insurance, but what we want is cash, and what we want is access to cash. And so I started learning, man, there's so many opportunities that by thinking this way, that then I can keep money into our hands. And so that's really, when we talk about infinite banking, it's about putting money into a free contract where it pools for us and it's not a part of the banking world, but yet we can borrow against it, we can use it, and that's what we do. We teach our clients that financial freedom is when you have more passive income. That's money that you have coming in that has nothing to do with you going to work for it. Now there's, an hour-long show on all the different ways you can create passive income, and is passive truly passive, and there's some things it is, some things that it's not. But there's really probably three real main categories in which our clients are creating different forms of income. The first is multi-level marketing. No, I'm teasing.
I was like, all of time stood still, and I'm like, oh, where is this going? Where is this going?
I just had to listen to that. I listened to the episode that you did the other day, so I thought I'd throw that in there.
I get so many angry messages from the Amway people.
Oh man,
that's hilarious.
I will say this, that we do have some clients that have got involved in Young Living, for instance, and have had a lot of success and have helped a lot of people. And so again, I think there's different levels of it. And there's different version of it, but of course,
and not to jump too much in it, because I want to jump over a third pillar. But like I was, one of my very first self-starter jobs was as a political consultant, primarily for state level races. And the one thing I learned, jumping between parties and candidates and races, was that listen, the political technology, the certain tactics you use, there's no morality in them inherently. It's all about how they're used. Do I think that the MLM model is inherently an evil model? No. It's just how it's used. When it comes to Young Living, and I'm personally a Plexus customer, I think what they're doing is great because it's product focused. But when it comes to that MLM model specifically, it's, in my opinion, it's used more often for evil than for good.
No, you're right. When the whole model is based upon how many people you sign up instead of how many people are buying the product. Yeah. We know a really prominent one that had a race car and advertised on football games that just went through a major FTC deal and is no longer MLM. They're direct to consumer because they messed up. Yeah, we know that happens, and so anyway, I thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, so there's three main pillars, the kind of 3, 4, and 5 that Joey and I see are personally that we use. Because here's the thing: is that we don't speak from theory and concept. Joey and I are always the first practitioners to anything that we teach because we're on the same journey, right? I mean, forever I was a financial planner. I was doing it the typical way. And what I was not doing was getting ahead. And I wasn't helping my clients get ahead. Now, I was making money from them. I had a job, a well-paying job. But to me, I wasn't seeing people actually get closer to the destination, which is time freedom, location freedom, all of that. And when I realized that, man, the only way that I'm going to help someone else reach that destination is I got to make it a priority in my own life. And Joey and I have been focused for the last 2 years, probably really hard of how do we create passive income in our own life? How do we live out these 5 pillars? How do we set up these life insurance policies for ourselves? So I own over 21 whole life policies. That's a crazy thing to say, but that is my opportunity funds. You better believe that I'm creating my own Fort Knox of capital that I can deploy. So pillar number 3 is business ownership. Pillar number 4 is real estate. And pillar number 5 is lending. And there's so many different versions of each one of those. I'll just start with just one, and I'll let Joey, you jump into another. But when you talk about business ownership, for us, most people's businesses are nowhere near passive. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, like Joey and I would work 78 hours a week in this business that we were doing the wrong way for a long time, and we were trying to figure out ways to make more money. And all it required is an extra 5 to 10 hours a week of our time. And we have large families, and that was just one of those things where we said, no, we've got to stop doing that. We've got to find ways to create a passive business. And so for the last 2 years, we have gotten more and more of our time back, and it's because we spent a lot of money and we started automating things. We started hiring people who could do jobs better than we did. And we are big fans of encouraging people to be business owners, but not the S quadrant business owners that Robert Kiyosaki talks about in his cash flow quadrant, but how to be B class business owners, meaning that someone else are performing the functions of the job that create an income stream, whether or not you're there or not. I mean, Joey right now is at his house, not here with me at the office. And our business works and performs just as well when he's there, or he's here, or I'm at the lake or not. And it's one of those things that we encourage people. Business ownership is an amazing thing. Talking about taxes, there's so many tax breaks that are giving to the business owner class that is not afforded to the person who works for someone else. And so we talk about getting cash flow. Well, one of those is understanding how to get dollars working for us, and that's helping other people. And the beauty of Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, is to talk about the unintended consequence of us with our own desires and motivations, and to go out and create a business, create something, and in order to get what we want, it creates things for other people. So we love business ownership as pillar 3.
Yeah, and I'll add in for pillar 4 would be on the real estate side. As you know, everybody talks about real estate as passive income. But we found that there's variations of that a lot of people don't know about. One of them would be land flipping, like buying raw land at a discount because you find motivated sellers who really just want to get rid of their land. They don't really care about the retail version. They're tired of paying taxes on it. And then turn around and selling that on retail on terms. And just to give you a very small taste of this, so Russ and I actually hired the group that is the Land Geek. They're friends of ours now, and we've interviewed them several times on our podcast. And basically, you can do this yourself, but we ended up hiring them to do it for us because of time for us. We didn't want to add more time to our plate. And there are people that are creating $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. 50,000 a month in free cash flow with as little as 3 to 5 hours a week once they get the business up and running. They've got virtual assistants. They've systematized the entire thing to be run from anywhere in the country or worldwide. And they've done it in such a way that you can get into it for very little money and start growing an actual business on the side. So we're really high. We put a lot of value on a land flipping business. So I guess it's kind of a mixture of a business and real estate, if you will. And then another thing I'll mention is short-term rentals. Being able to rent an apartment from somebody and then tell them a full disclosure, I'm going to put this on a short-term rental basis on a platform like Airbnb or VRBO or Bookings or whatever. And and basically turn around and use the arbitrage on the monthly amount I would have been paying them for rent versus the nightly amount that I can get on Airbnb. Sometimes you can get anywhere from $800 to $1,600 to $2,000 or more per month in net cash flow whenever you do that kind of arbitrage between the two. This is something we learned from somebody we interviewed 2 years ago. Or excuse me, no, it hadn't even been 2 years ago. We've implemented ourselves, and we now have 4 units and probably about to expand to 10 to 11 units. And it's just been extremely profitable. So those are some of the passive income ideas that we share within the community and on our show.
On a real estate, and then the last one will be really quick because we have been long-winded, Remso. Thanks for letting us rant. This is
I've been taking notes the entire time. This is perfect.
There's so many avenues, so many, when we say business or we say real estate, we've interviewed 150 or more entrepreneurs in every one of these spaces. And I'm constantly dumbfounded by the number of ways that you can create cash flow that is just not taught. And we just highlighted a couple ones that we're involved in, but the last pillar that we talk about is lending, and we love the fact that we teach the concept in step 2 of becoming your own banker, and we say, well, if you really want to be your own bank, and kind of like what my father-in-law ultimately did, is that he became the bank for my wife's dental practice, and that's just a form of lending, and lending is one of the most profitable businesses in the world. If you don't believe me, look in every downtown and you tell me what the name on the top of the tallest and prettiest buildings are. I guarantee you they're banks. And so we're teaching that, hey, you can do the same concept. And so Joey and I, through private lending, have done loans in all shapes and forms. We've done mortgages, car loans on retail products.
Yeah, don't do that one, by the way, Remso. Stay away from that loan, okay? I would not do that one.
But you name it. We've done private lending, been part of, equity funding projects. There's just so many different ways in the lending space that, again, none of these things that we're teaching are just like, oh, okay, I just do that and I start making money. Hear me in this, that we're all about taking control. And the way you're going to truly take control is that you're going to have to educate yourself. You're going to have to become knowledgeable. The best investment you're ever going to make is going to be in yourself. And I'm going to say it again. The best investment you'll ever make is going to be in yourself. And you know that to be true because up to this point in life, you can think through all the things you've ever invested money into, and you compare it to how much money you've made through your own knowledge and work and experience. And what you have done personally is, is so much more. It's gigantic in comparison to what something else has come in regards to someone else's effort. So we always tell people, you're going to have to spend tons of money. Joey and I, we spend 6 figures a year in our own educations. And we've been doing this for a long time. So if we're willing to spend that kind of money constantly to keep learning and educating ourselves, it tells you if you have no experience in this, you got to start. And sometimes it's a do-it-yourself model, and you don't have that kind of cash. You're like, well, crap, Russ, I don't have that kind of money. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm, going to have more money than month on the 30th, right? Well, you got to start somewhere. There's so many videos. There's so many things that exist for free. If it's okay, Remso, I'll share a link to our community. Are you
absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
So go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com /own the run. Own the Run is the name of the podcast we're on. And it'll give you actually a free link to our community, which we have a course in there, Financial Freedom 101, and you can go through these steps that we're talking about. How are you going to understand cash flows? What are some of the hacks that you can take? How do I build this opportunity fund? What is this whole infinite banking thing about? Because we have an Infinite Banking 101 course. Then, I want to start creating this passive income you speak of. What is that? How does that work? What are some of the easy places I can start? And we picked just a handful of podcasts that we've already kind of alluded to here that just point you in the right direction so that you can start on that path. And then then you're a member of a 3,000 person community that is in there just sharing how they're doing this. And they're there to encourage you. They're on the same journey you are. And I know you'll love this. This is not one of the big tech giants' platform. We don't want to be a part of that stuff because we don't want to get distracted. And so we built out this whole app and community.
I like it.
On an opposite platform that keeps people in the place where they really want to be, getting to the destination that they really want to go to.
That's perfect. And I mean, folks, I'm going to go ahead and include the link in the show notes. So see, it not only is accessing all this free, but I made it easy for you. You just have to go ahead and click on the link that I'll provide in the show notes. But I mean, you all have, covered so many things. And, the one thing that I really want to, just really drive home with folks is like this isn't something that is outrageously unobtainable. I've published 2 books in the last 3 years, and that was an income stream that I never thought that would actually help me. It wasn't until I was actually unemployed at one point where it was like, it's still, even though it's not a lot of money, it's still nice to have that coming in. Then developing my own skills on I call myself a proud YTU grad, YouTube University. Everything you want, good and bad, is there. And I mean, I take a lot of courses on Udemy even regularly. So I mean, what you said about both of you taking your financial resources and investing it back in your own individual capital, it's amazing, because the one thing that I think more people are realizing now amidst the pandemic and everything else that they probably never realized was of value to them prior is the ability to, one, have access to your money when you need it. Second, be able to move, physically go somewhere else and have the freedom to do so. And 3, be able to go anywhere in the world and be in any position and have the skills and the resources needed to immediately start working, at the level and at the performance of which you're able to. And I mean, this is for a lot of people. There are many different reasons why they want to do it. But I mean, what you all have listed in terms of looking into becoming your own bank, looking into starting your own business, developing additional streams. This is actually something I don't think I've ever told anyone before. One of the big things that was a big pivot point in my life, especially becoming a young adult. A good friend of mine who I had known for 13 years, he died from a random heart attack at 24. And let me put some context to this. He was a star athlete. He was about to commission in the Army. He was an airborne air assault guy. I mean, what just happened to him was just a freak act of, just the universe just randomly happened. Nothing was out of his control. It was insane. And what that showed me was that, that there's only so much time we have left on Earth. And if somebody who is in the best health, in the best position, his prospects are so bright, can just randomly lose his life like that, that really puts everything into perspective. So, I mean, you two have brought it up so many times, but this is what I really want to emphasize to people. All of this is done ultimately if you want to do it well and you want to see yourself succeed overall. All of this has to be done with the intention of getting your own time back. I've started small businesses. Some of them did very well. Some of them bombed. I wouldn't trade any of those experiences for everything, especially the failures. It helped me grow up as a leader and as a businessman. And when ultimately what it comes down to is I can accumulate money. I can be in any position. I always know that I have the skills and the mindset and the knowledge to obtain money from others. The one thing I'll never be able to do is get back my own time.
Well said.
That's well said.
Yeah. I didn't want to bring it all on a sour note, but hopefully,
no.
I mean, this is something that there's always got to be a reason.
Got to be. Yeah. If you don't know why it's important, you won't achieve it. And there's a chart out there that will I forget the name of the website, but they break down your life in weeks. You literally can think of your life and in these 52 weeks a year, and if you will do that, you will start to realize how precious time is, because if you consider how many weeks will go by before you've accomplished something, then you'll be able to see it. Because sometimes we measure things in years and then we go, oh, well, I didn't get to that this year. I'll do it next year. And and when you've missed a year, you really can't do anything, right? But if you miss a week and you're gauging your life in weeks, you'll really start to go, wow, I just missed that. But see, I've got 51 more weeks in that year to accomplish my goals. And I encourage you, just what you said, Remso, life is short. Let's spend it doing the things that we want to, being a blessing to others, and go out and seek it, and seek freedom, seek liberty, everything that you're about. We appreciate you having us on. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and speak with me and my listeners. If they want to go, for everything that you mentioned, it's all going to be in the show notes, but if folks want to engage with you online, learn more about your services and everything else, how can they do so?
I'd say the best way is just connect with us on the community. wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/on the run. We actually have a chat feature within the app. So, I mean, literally, you can be chatting with one of us and just let us know how you heard about us and what you're interested in, and we'll help direct you from there.
Outstanding, folks. It couldn't be easier. It's in the show notes. I did all the work for you. Russ and Joey and Russ from Wealth Without Wall Street, thank you so much for joining us today.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, our pleasure, man.
And folks, one last thing I'm going to ask. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to me. Please, a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. It goes miles, and it helps us keep this going. And if you're finding value in this, in this show that I do twice a week, on top of all my other tasks, on top of all my other jobs, I'm doing this to help benefit you and I, so we can lift each other up together. It means the world. So please, a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts, doesn't matter, but it helps me so much. And as always, you can find me across social media at Hey Remso, and on Parler, that's where you can find me 90% of the time, just at Remso. You ever see Remso 2 pop up, scare them off. As always, the only people who are free are those with options. You're listening to On the Run. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.
Check out our other shows and more from the We Are Libertarians network at wearelibertarians.com.